Tonight,
I'm just ready for it to be legal everywhere.
we take you inside Colorado's newest industry.
I think it's prettier than most flowers out there.
The business of legal marijuana, generating hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is far more powerful than anything we've dealt with before.
Nebraska law enforcement are having trouble keeping up with the problems generated when the drug crosses state lines.
I think what Colorado's doing is one of the worst social experiments a state could do.
A court fight between states is looming.
How are we to control Nebraska residents who are breaking the law?
For the next half hour, Brian Mastre reports. Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed.
Good evening, I'm Brian Mastre reporting from Denver, Colorado. Now, many of us come here to Colorado to get what we can't get in Nebraska, the mountains. And while those views, the majestic views, are unchanged, Colorado is caught in the middle of another attraction, this one man-made, marijuana sales. In fact, sales in the first year so much exceeded expectations, state lawmakers are considering giving some of that surplus back to the taxpayers. But law enforcement communities in Nebraska bordering Colorado can't keep up with all the legal marijuana coming into the state. Nebraska versus Colorado used to be a college football rivalry. Now it's a case before the U.S. Supreme Court.
They're all over the country debating not if, but what. What are we going to do?
When Colorado voters approved Amendment 64, becoming the first state to allow marijuana to be sold for recreational use and not just as medicine.
Well, this is our old facility. This is where we first started.
Andy Williams believed a nationwide shift in culture was inevitable.
So we find a plant that we like, and we like good, big, and fast.
The demand forced expansion. In 1 year, his business, as the medicine man in Denver, doubled, bringing in $9 million in sales in 2014, the first full year of the state's law allowing anyone over 21 to buy it. Beyond your age, no questions asked. You think Coloradoans regret changing the law?
Not at all. Colorado actually has embraced it. There's a lot of data that points to less violent crime, actually lower teen use in Colorado.
To me, people are being sold a bill of goods by an industry that stands to make multi-billion dollars from this industry.
Enter Nebraska Attorney General Doug Peterson. We tracked him in western Nebraska as he builds the state's lawsuit against Colorado, trying to shut down their pot industry.
I don't want to be too alarmist here, but I do think we're at a critical time where a whole generation of youth are at risk, and adults need to step up and say, this is a real harm. It's a real potential harm that we have to fight against.
Whoa, how you doing? Deputy Sheriff of the Scottsbluff County Sheriff's Office.
Law enforcement in western Nebraska sees it time and again in the last year during traffic stops.
We knew Colorado wasn't going to be able to keep it in Colorado.
When manpower is at a premium for a small county sheriff, having something legal only a few miles away from where it's illegal straps resources.
This is far more powerful than anything we've dealt with before.
Scottsbluff County Sheriff Mark Overton says the ease and proximity of Colorado's legal marijuana is turning Nebraska young people into drug dealers at home. Investigators recently closed this case. All of the evidence, the pot, is labeled from the Colorado dispensaries where it was seemingly purchased. Experts say the black market didn't go away either.
The information we get in the Attorney General's office is that this is bringing in the drug cartels from Mexico. They think they somehow sanctified the process and the cartels went away. They're actually coming in stronger. And I just recently heard today that the Russian cartels are coming in to try to compete for this market. So I think Colorado is a terrible social experiment.
Still ahead.
Do people ask if they can take this out of state when they come to here?
Some people do.
What do you tell them?
Marijuana retailers fire back. Users want more states to follow Colorado's lead.
I think it'll be a good deal for the world.
And what exactly is Nebraska law enforcement seeing on the border?
People just don't seem to realize how dangerous it is.
When Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed continues. We now return with the WOWT 6 News special report. Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed. Here again, Brian Mastre.
This is the closest marijuana dispensary to the Nebraska border, just a few miles away. We're in Sedgwick, Colorado. It's a Friday morning, 10:30, and just in the last 10 minutes, we've seen 4 cars come and go, all with Nebraska license plates. While most of Colorado's 2,200 marijuana dispensaries are near population centers, not here in Sedgwick, Colorado. The last census counted 142 people in town.
We're about 12 miles from the county line to Sedgwick.
And I'm going to guess we're on the outskirts of about 30, I would think.
Nebraska sheriffs of Cheyenne County and Dual County experienced the impact of Colorado marijuana daily. Both men are plaintiffs in another lawsuit aimed at stopping the flow of pot across the border.
We're not targeting the Colorado people. It's our own people that now they can drive 30 minutes to a dispensary, pick it up legal. The problem is it's coming back across the state.
Since the law took effect, the cost of doing business as a county skyrocketed, from enforcement to prosecution to incarceration. I would think that these people would be using back roads, trying to do everything to avoid detection, no?
They're not. They're adamantly coming across. We're seeing, years ago you used to see 200, 300, 400 pounds. That was a big load. Well, they don't have to do that now because it's so close.
Flaunting almost?
Yeah, the ones that we catch, it seems like a lot of them really don't care that they got caught, Most of them seem like it doesn't bother them, and they argue the fact that, well, it's legal in Colorado, we should be able to take it wherever we want.
Do you think there's any merit to Nebraska suing Colorado over this?
Absolutely not. Were they saying that we're the cause of that? Do they think no marijuana was going across border before we were in business? I think there was.
Well, they're saying it's worse now.
Maybe they're patrolling it more now. And even if it is more now, is that because Nebraska residents are coming here and buying it and bringing it back? How are we to control Nebraska residents who are breaking the law? I have no power over them.
It's legal for out-of-staters to buy recreational marijuana in Colorado.
I got like 2 grams and then some joints, so almost an eighth, I guess, altogether.
There's one difference. If you live here, you can take home an ounce of pot. Out-of-staters are allowed to only buy up to a 1/4 ounce a day. That's how much is in this package. But nothing in the law keeps track of those going to other dispensaries and getting more. Olivia Grider believes the war on drugs has been handled poorly for years.
It's ridiculous. You shouldn't go to jail for some pot.
She came to Denver from Oklahoma for a concert. Oklahoma is also suing Colorado for its recreational marijuana.
I plan on moving here anyways, so either way, it'll be legal for me.
Is this your product?
Yeah, we grow 100% of our own marijuana.
The medicine man sees the trend of other states following Colorado's lead as a sign that his state is onto something, even with the threat of lawsuits now.
This is a huge seller.
Remember, what Colorado and Washington State are doing is regulating marijuana, and it's illegal to do that under the Controlled Substances Act.
And after we trim it, we bring it up here.
But in 2013, the Justice Department backed off prosecution, clearing the way for the marijuana boon. Do you still worry at all that the Department of Justice will change its mind? Because then you're out of business, aren't you?
Yeah, I've lived with this for so long. It's just buzz in my head anymore. I don't even think about it. And quite honestly, I don't think that the DOJ is going to change their mind on that. The genie's out of the bottle.
Still ahead.
There's evidence that there is positive impact from using medicinal cannabis.
Families who are looking not for a high, but some degree of healing. Plus, we'll go inside the data.
They're sending a message that it's harmless and that it's not a big deal, and these kids are buying into that when in fact it's a very big deal.
Just how have things changed in the last year with Colorado's new pot industry?
We found out that there's dispensaries in Colorado, Fort Collins area, that'll give you, if you're a Nebraska resident, they'll give you a 10% discount.
What do the numbers say about young people using?
Hey, just because people have marijuana doesn't mean they go crazy. It doesn't mean they act irresponsibly or do illegal things with it.
When Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed continues. We now return to our special report. Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed. Here again, Brian Mastre.
It won't be long and we'll hear an official response from Colorado's Attorney General. The state is expected to file official paperwork in response to the lawsuit from Nebraska and Oklahoma by the end of the month. Even then, there's no guarantee the Supreme Court will hear the case. So what does Colorado's Attorney General say about the lawsuit? Not a thing. She declined my interview request. A spokeswoman told me, because this matter is one that is now before the High Court, we are not granting interviews. However, the lawsuit is not keeping Nebraska's Attorney General from talking.
These guys are fighting that battle right now already. They're running into kids who are bringing it back, high school. And I think we're talking 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. It's an impairment industry that stands to make a big profit. And they need to expand the market, and this is one of the closest markets to do it.
Do people ask if they can take this out of state when they come to here?
Some people do.
What do you tell them?
I tell them no. And we say you can't take it across state lines. You could go to jail for that.
Dispensary owners put it this way: no matter the regulation, there will always be some people who don't follow the rules.
Because we're the closest dispensary to the airport, we get people all the time coming from the airport, right from the airport, and or going to the airport, and they say, "Can I take this on the plane?" Absolutely not.
Are you surprised they're even asking?
I am surprised. I don't quite get that.
So what does the data say? An August report from the Rocky Mountain High Intensity Trafficking Area, called The Legalization of Marijuana in Colorado, The Impact, found Colorado young people between 12 and 17 use marijuana at a 39% higher rate than the national average.
There's still some science out there that says that marijuana usage among younger people does affect your memory.
I agree. Young people shouldn't be using marijuana. This industry does a lot to educate the public on that.
Do you hear from people who say, "Oh, come on, we did it when we were younger"?
I do, sure.
We turned out.
Sure, we should just legalize it.
So what's wrong?
What's wrong is look at the numbers. Look at the emergency room admissions right now. Look at the traffic fatalities. What are we willing to stand? I mean, it's just I don't want to see Nebraska get like that.
The same study shows traffic fatalities involving operators testing positive for marijuana in Colorado jumped 100% from 2007 to 2012. From 2011 to 2013, emergency room visits related to marijuana increased 57%.
Everybody's comparing the marijuana of today to the marijuanas of the 60s and 70s, and you can't do that. They have nothing in common but the name. I mean, the concentrate, the THC level is so much higher in today's product.
The same report revealed the chemical compound in marijuana that causes the high has grown dramatically. The average THC potency in marijuana stood at 4% in 1995. In 2013, the average THC potency tripled to 12%.
Marijuana is the gateway drug that comes in. If you have marijuana coming in, you're going to start seeing an increase, and in our case, it was methamphetamine. We saw a huge number increase back to the days when we had labs going on. We're seeing heroin for the first time in the state of Nebraska, or at least in this end of the state.
It's like anything, if people have a propensity for addiction or for abuse of substance, no matter what they do is going to be a stepping stone for something else.
You think it's like alcohol?
I do, yeah. I think it's better than alcohol.
Still ahead, medical marijuana in Nebraska's spotlight.
We shouldn't have to become medical refugees.
When Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed continues. We now return to our special report, Nebraska v. Colorado, the war on weed.
In its first year, Colorado's pot industry racked up more than $700 million in revenue. A 10% sales tax and other fees added $76 million to Colorado's treasury. Even so, lawmakers were forecasting much higher numbers.
You yourself really don't partake in marijuana that often.
No, I don't.
Some people will be surprised by that, I think. You're the medicine man.
Yeah, I'm the medicine man. I should be doing marijuana. It's like living in Colorado and not skiing, right? I don't do either. And I do a little bit recreationally a few times a year, but it's really at a minimum.
Situated inside a Denver industrial park,
we organize them in here by how long they take to flower.
Andy Williams showed us his operation as a way to not only defend his industry, but educate the public. He's aware Nebraska is debating the merits of medical marijuana, something Colorado started more than a decade ago.
Nebraska doesn't have medical marijuana.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I hear miracle stories all the time.
Buddy.
And so does the Bellevue, Nebraska family of Will Gillen.
We call him God's Will. That's what we've nicknamed him. And Will doesn't talk. He's never spoken a word. He's in diapers. He is at the cognitive level of about a probably 18-month-old, 2-year-old. He has had over his 12 years, almost 12 and a half years, literally thousands of seizures, probably more than that, probably tens of thousands, to be honest with you.
Love you.
Will's parents believe medical cannabis could help with his epileptic seizures. Seizures that turn so violent, he must wear a helmet to keep from injuring himself. McGillans are reluctant to leave Nebraska for Colorado or one of the other 23 states with medical marijuana laws. It's why they want to change policy here.
We feel like we're Nebraskans. We've always been Nebraskans. We feel like it's our right to live here, and we shouldn't have to become medical refugees to go to another state to get a treatment that is working.
While acknowledging medical marijuana carries some health benefits to a small percentage of the population, Nebraska's Attorney General believes the negatives outweigh the positives. He calls it a slippery slope where the potential for abuse is great.
The first way you step into this industry is you don't immediately go to a state and say, let's go to recreational use. You do a medical marijuana statute and you bring out some very, very sympathetic stories to get people to loosen their guard.
It makes me angry that we can't look at the value, at the possible good things that can happen from this treatment option. I think they hear the word marijuana and they immediately turn it off, and they don't want to look at it, see the fact that there's a definite difference between medicinal cannabis and recreational. I think they have this idea of the slippery slope, and it's an idea that I don't agree with. I think every step along the way, the legislature has the opportunity to say no.
And while this 7th grader will never understand the debate, he heads off to school like any other day.
As the advocates for him, my wife and I trying to be his voice to give us the opportunity to do something with our son that may have positive benefits for him and may increase and help his quality of life. That's all we're asking for.
Western Nebraska law enforcement is poised to take on marijuana from every angle, from medical marijuana to the border enforcement of Colorado. Some lawmakers have gone at it another way, considering easing the penalty of pot possession as a way to lighten the load on an overtaxed system. Right now, for first offense possession of less than an ounce of marijuana in Nebraska is like a speeding ticket and a $300 fine.
Become convinced that those in the unicameral want to utilize the overcrowding in the Nebraska correction system as an excuse to try to say, well, we need to just kind of ease up on these things.
Short of getting Colorado to stop the sales of recreational marijuana altogether, what is Nebraska's endgame? For those patrolling the Nebraska border, cooperation with Colorado would be a start.
What can we do together to limit our problem? Help you enforce your state laws, you help us enforce our state laws. The voters of Colorado decided what happened in Colorado. They didn't decide what happened in Nebraska.
I do think we're at a critical time.
For the state's lead investigator, it's patience, asking Nebraska decision makers at the very least to slow down the change machine.
Please wait 3 to 5 years and study Colorado. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to come up and say that this doesn't have great social cost. But the fact of the matter is you've got to wait and see what Colorado's doing.
Both sides believe they will be on the right side of history.
I can name any number of other things that people at the time that thought the status quo was going to win out over time. And guess what? They were proved wrong too.
For now, what's legal where I'm standing here in Colorado remains illegal just a few feet away in Nebraska. And with Alaska and Washington, D.C., and soon Oregon joining the list of states allowing recreational use of marijuana, things will only be heightened along border states to come. And the Nebraska Attorney General believes it's a costly social experiment that needs to end. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Brian Mastre reporting from the Nebraska-Colorado border.